Um, Welcome to the Shoals Marine Lab webinar on our 2017 high school program. If you're in this webinar thinking that you'll hear about something else, you're in the wrong place, but if you're here to hear about Shoals, you're in the right place. Greetings to all our guests tonight. I guess I'd first like to introduce the people that are going to be talking to you on this webinar. I'm Dr. Robin Hadlock-Seeley. I'm the academic coordinator for Cornell students and also for the high school program. Liz, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Dr. Liz Craig. I'm an academic coordinator at Shoals Marine Laboratory and also a Seabird Conservation biologist.
Alexa?
Hi everyone, I first went out to Shoals Marine Lab as a student, so I'm here to sort of serve as an alumni angle and answer any questions about student life on the island. I now work for the Shoals Marine Lab full-time in our main office, so I could also try to answer some office questions if they come up.
Laura, are you there?
She's still working on connecting, so I think she'll join us in a few minutes.
Okay. And Dr. Laura Jordan-Smith is the faculty for 2 of the courses you'll be hearing about tonight, and with any luck, she'll be joining us later by phone. So I want to welcome everyone again, and I want to talk to you first about this picture that you see in front of you. This is a really neat rotating 360-degree view of Appledore Island, which is our island campus. In a minute, I'll show you where Appledore Island is located, but this is a neat camera on the top of a World War II radar tower that's right in the center of the island. So as it rotates, you can see our entire island campus. We may come back to that photo in a minute. But first of all, let's locate Appledore Island. Where on earth is it? Appledore is the home, as you know, of the Shoals Marine Laboratory, which is a cooperative program of Cornell University and the University of New Hampshire. And if you're signed up for a high school class at Shoals Marine Lab, you'll be taking credit through Cornell University. Other students may get credit through the University of New Hampshire. So here we see the New England coast, which will probably, maybe the most familiar feature is Cape Cod down here. Here's Boston, Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and Portland, Maine. And you can see the Maine-New Hampshire border comes right down through. And now let's enlarge it a little bit and pretend you're taking a boat right along that white line, which is the Maine-New Hampshire border. And just by chance, the border is pretty much the route that we take when we come out to Appledore Island, which is where this red spot is. And here's the Isles of Shoals with Appledore highlighted. So what we want to do today is talk to you a little bit about life on Appledore Island as a student, what our classes are like, what the content of the classes is, and then a little bit about the application process for those of you who maybe haven't applied or haven't been accepted yet or haven't enrolled. And then at the end, we'll have a Q&A session. You'll all be muted, but you should be able to see, those of you who are on the computer anyway, should be able to see a chat window. And you can just type your questions in on the chat window, and the best person to answer that question will take the question. And then at the end, we'll tell you how you can reach us if you think of any questions later. And if you want to hear this webinar again, it is being recorded, I think, and will be probably posted on YouTube, so you can hear it later. So now that you know where Appledore Island is, let's go in for a close-up and look at our island map and talk about where you are, what the campus is like. See if I can blow that up a bit. So here we are with a north-south angle. And remember, I said there was a radar tower in the center where that beautiful 360-degree view was from. That's right here. On the south half of the island is where our campus, our academic campus is. So we have these dorms, dorm 1, 2, and 3, where you'll be sleeping. We have the Kiggins Commons, where you'll be eating. We have a field running seawater laboratory here where you'd be doing your hands-on work in the laboratory. And then these other buildings are classrooms. But really, the whole island is our island campus. So we have a few buildings in the middle where we spend some time, but we also spend a lot of time, obviously, outside around the island. And then here's our SML dock where we depart from when we go on boat field trips. Another thing you might be interested in now is that, we have an Appledore webcam, and actually tonight it happens to be a fantastic sunset, but this webcam goes 24/7 and allows you to, oh, there it goes. So here, conveniently, this is one of our dorms. We have one-story dorms. And for the high school students, they're separated into male and female dorms, and each gender has its own RA of the same gender, obviously. So the women are in one dorm for women with a female RA, and the young men with a male RA. So that's something you can look at later. The next thing, I'll just close that off now. It's a beautiful sunset tonight, so I urge you to go back to the Appledore webcam, and I can remind you of the URL for that later, and go back and look at the sunset. So now what I thought I would do is help you go through the website, and we can talk about the classes, some activities in the classes, syllabi for the classes, and help you get around the website. So one of the first things you'll probably want to do is go to student education, and then high school courses. Charming, guys. I'm doing all the talking. And here we have our two courses, sections 1 and 2 of Marine Environmental Science, and the Introduction to the Biology of Sharks class.
I'm just going to pipe in really quick, Robin. Laura, I have taken you off mute if you want to join in.
Oh, okay. Hello.
Yeah, can you introduce yourself, Laura?
Yeah, sure. I am Dr. Smith, and I'm teaching one of the sections of the Marine Environmental Science course, as well as the Introduction to Sharks and Rays course. So I can hopefully answer some questions about either of those two, if anyone wants to ask a little bit later.
And Laura, say a bit about your academic background.
I'm trying to switch to the computer, so this may get a little confusing.
Oh, okay. Well, we can come back to you. Why don't you work on that?
Okay, thanks.
Thanks. So here you see the courses, and in order to find out more about a course, you just have to click on that course. So I know a lot of the students that we have with us this evening are interested in the Sharks class. So I'll just go ahead and click on that. And this takes you to the course page for the Sharks course. It has the dates, of course, a course description, a little bit about Dr. Laura Jordan-Smith here, who's the faculty member. And then on the right, you have a syllabus, which Dr. Jordan-Smith just updated the day before yesterday. So it's the most recent version of the Sharks class syllabus. So you may want to take a look at that and get a sense for what you'll be doing in this one-week course. Another really nice feature of the course, the Sharks course, is that the students made a blog last summer. So we might just take a peek at that. And, I urge you to go and browse through this on your own time, but it's got a lot of pictures, and you can get a really good sense of the activities that the students did last year in the Sharks class. So if Dr. Laura Jordan-Smith, hello?
Hi, I'm back.
Laura?
Yes.
Oh, great. That sounds a lot better. So could you take us through these blog pictures and talk about some of the activities in the Sharks class?
Sure. Well, I can tell a little bit about both classes from these, but in both classes we do several field trips that involve going out on the boat. For sharks and for the other class as well, we do one of the field trips is a fishing trip where we go out and for the sharks class, we're trying to catch some elasmobranchs, which include the sharks, the skates, and the rays, which are the species that we're studying. So we spend a bit of time out on the boat, as you can see in some of those pictures there. And we also do some water chemistry sampling and other oceanographic types of data collection out on the boat. And then we also did a survey looking for marine mammals and talking a little bit about how sharks and marine mammals interact in this particular part of the world. And then we also spend quite a bit of time in the lab. You can see one of our anatomy labs in the photograph that she's showing right now, where we're looking at several different types of elasmobranchs, the skates and the rays, and comparing. We do one of our interesting projects is comparing the anatomy of different species. So you choose one body part, for example, and look at how it differs across different species, and get a sense of the variety within the group of animals, and also how that relates to how they function and what does it mean that they look different, for example. And then you can also see a little bit more of the lab space and some of the fish that we caught on our fishing trip. Some of the other projects that the students do in this class, the sharks class, is an outreach project where this is sort of their main project, where they come up with an idea of a way to communicate to the general public or to a specific audience about sharks, something that's maybe a misconception. There are lots of myths that float around about these types of animals. So maybe addressing a specific misconception or conservation issue related to these animals.
And you've been studying sharks for a while, haven't you, Dr. Laura?
Yeah, I've been studying sharks and rays specifically since I started my PhD. I finished my PhD in about 2008 at UCLA, but I started my career in marine science right there at Shoals Marine Lab when I was an undergraduate at Cornell. So I live in California now, but I've done quite a bit of work on both the East Coast and the West Coast with these different types of animals.
Great. Let's move over to marine environmental science, your section 2 class.
Uh-huh.
And let's see, that also has a blog. And also, I want to point out, there's also a syllabus.
Yep. So this class is a bit more in depth because we cover pretty much the full range of marine science in this. It's kind of like a sampling plate. These photos are going to be from the sharks class because they're both on the same link.
Oh.
So they'll be earlier. That class is earlier in the summer. But this class kind of has a little bit of a sampling of lots of different types of experimental methods and lots of different ecosystems that we have available on the island, especially looking at, sorry for the toddler noises, especially looking at the intertidal area all across the different regions of the island, comparing areas that are more exposed to wave action and the elements with other areas that are more sheltered, and how that influences the algae and the animals that live in those different areas. So we spend a lot of time going around the island and looking at the different ecosystems and habitats that we find there. And then we also spend a bit of time going out on the boats, and we cover the full range of marine life, from algae through invertebrates to all the fishes and marine mammals and birds. So you get a good sampling of all of the marine life. And we focus mostly on local ecosystems, but we talk a little bit about ecosystems in other areas as well.
So if you had to sum up the difference in topical coverage between the two courses, how would you summarize the difference between them? Are Are they basically the same in structure, just focusing on different parts of the ecosystem?
Kind of. I mean, they all have the same basic structure in terms of lectures, labs, and field and boat time, but the sharks class is completely focused on that particular group of animals, whereas the other class is focused on, you know, a much broader coverage of life in the ocean, as well as oceanography and geological, chemical, physical properties of the ocean. So it gets, they both are very busy and have a lot to do, but they're focused on different subjects and different scope.
We actually have some students this summer who signed up for both courses.
Oh, great.
So unless any of my co-hosts has something to say, I thought we might switch over to the application and acceptance and enrollment process just for. So we'll go right over to the admissions page. And then, of course, the first step, I believe most of you that I'm seeing in the participant list have pre-registered. So you've already been through that first pre-registration step. Unfortunately, we don't offer financial support for high school students, but if you come back to us as a college student, you definitely can apply for financial support and scholarships and work positions, but not as a high school student, unfortunately. There's an application process for high school students, which most of you have already been through. You send me a transcript and the name of the class you'd like to take, and then I send you my admissions decision, and then the enrollment process, but it doesn't stop there. The enrollment process is you fill out a copy of this Cornell Summer Sessions enrollment form, which is a PDF, and then you send it back to Cornell with your payment. If you're an international student, and I don't know as we have any on today, but if you're an international student, you also have to fill out an I-20 request form so you can study in the United States. But domestic students just need to send that signed and completed enrollment form plus payment. And it tells you the kinds of payment that are acceptable to Cornell Summer Sessions in paragraph below the list of things you need to send. But I do want to emphasize that once you're accepted and you have your enrollment letter, you really need to get that enrollment form and payment back to Cornell Summer Sessions ASAP, because you won't be enrolled and you won't have a place in the class until full payment is made. And so right now we have more than enough pre-registrations to fill at least 2 of these classes, but people are enrolling kind of slowly. So we still have some spots. I know in the Sharks class, we probably have 8 spots left, and in Marine Environmental Science, slightly more. But once people start turning in their forms and their payment, those spots are going to go quickly. And finally, if you have any accommodation needs, of course, you would just let us know that. Have I covered everything, and are we ready for Q&A?
Robin, would you like me to talk a little bit about school life?
Definitely.
So maybe if you put on the webcam or the tower cam again in the background so that I have something to talk to. Yeah, thanks. So student life I found on the island to be really enjoyable, really easy to make friends super quickly, even though the courses are only 2 weeks or 1 week. You're with people that are your own age that have the same interests as you do, whether it's the Marine Environmental Science class or specifically they love sharks, skates, and rays. You're going to meet like-minded students who many of my Shoals classmates have been my friends for many, many years after leaving the island, and you make lifelong friends in only 2 weeks. So that speaks to how close your class really gets. You're living and learning together all the time. So from the moment you wake up for breakfast at 7:30, you're all eating together. The faculty members are all eating with you. So you really get to know your classmates, and your faculty member extremely well. And some of the benefits of that, not only are you starting as a high school student to form your network of marine science friends and potential colleagues, many years down the line, but also looking ahead to your college admissions that will be upcoming. Taking a college level course as a high school student and getting to interact with people like Dr. Jordan Smith, to write your college letter of recommendation, to vouch for the fact that you had research experience and field experience as a high school student goes a long way to really jumpstart your college career just when you're in high school, a summer maybe after your sophomore or junior year. You can really get a leg up for your future in marine science or science in general out on the island. So those were some of the benefits that I saw: really close interactions with your classmates, and also great relationships with your faculty members that have benefits long after you leave Shoals Marine Lab.
Thanks, Alexa. Liz, did you want to add? And maybe Liz, could you tell them just a few words about what you do when you're out there on the island?
Sure thing. So first I want to just let you guys know that if you want to ask a question, maybe Robin already mentioned this, but at the bottom of your screen, there should be a little icon that says chat. And if you click on it and type in a question, I'm happy to read it out loud and we'll get an answer for you. So please chime in if you do have any questions. I'm relatively new to the Shoals Marine Lab community. I came on board last year to run our new Seabird Conservation program. So I spend some time on Appledore Island throughout the summer, but most of my time I actually spend on a different island out at Isles of Shoals called White Island, which is right next to Seabird Island, where we have a, oh, Robin, do you think we can go over there?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, this is so exciting. Okay, so yep, that's them right out there. So I spend my summers out on those two islands, which are a little less than a mile away from Appledore. There's a historic lighthouse and keeper's cottage on White Island where myself and my Seabird technicians spend the summer. You can almost see the lighthouse from this vantage point. And the island just next to the one with the lighthouse is reserved for threatened and endangered seabirds called terns. And these are some of the longest distance migrating birds in the world. And they come all the way up from the southern hemisphere to breed in New Hampshire for just a couple months out of the year before heading back to the other side of the globe. So we do what we can to make their experience here in the northern hemisphere a positive one and help them raise their chicks in relative safety. So that's how I spend a lot of the year. And the rest of the year I'm on UNH campus helping connect students with courses and other programs at Shoals Marine Lab.
Thanks, Liz. So now it's a good time for you to send in any questions that you have, and we'll do our best to answer them. While you're thinking about your questions, Alexa, do you remember the question about tests and exams? I wondered if you wanted to re-ask that.
Yeah, so oftentimes students have questions about not only the cool field trips that you get to go on, but also the academic part of the class. So all of the courses at Shoals Marine Lab are college level courses. So there is some level of testing and quizzing and lab reports. And Laura had a really great summary for me earlier this week about the difference between the tests and quizzes in marine environmental science and the academic, tests and quizzes projects in sharks. So I didn't know if she wanted to talk about those different projects? I think it's a good question that people might ask.
Okay, I'm going to get Laura on the line.
Sure. Hi. So one of the biggest differences between the two classes, aside from the fact that one is 2 weeks and one is 1 week, and the scope of the subject, is also that the 2-week class is 3 credits, whereas the 1-week class, the Sharks class, is 1 credit. And so because of that difference, there are some differences in terms of the amount of testing and that goes into those classes. So with the Marine Environmental Science class, there is a lab practical exam, which helps the students identify all the different species that they're seeing and learning about. And then there's also a final exam that goes with that course. And then they also have a large group project that they do with designing their own research project. In the Sharks class, they I've already mentioned a couple of the major projects, but they don't have any formal exams with the Sharks class. So there's the Anatomy and Physiology project, which I mentioned a little bit briefly before. And there's the main project, which is the outreach project. And then they have some other projects and assignments along the way too, but they don't have a formal exam. So hopefully that helps. But if you have other questions about that, let me know.
Thank you.
We have another question here from Kim. Do students get free time?
Laura, I think you're the best one to answer that.
Okay. They do get some free time, but they are pretty busy. They have lots of assignments that are happening concurrently, so there's a lot of things that they have to work on during scheduled time set aside in the syllabus. If you look on the syllabus, there are sort of workshop times where they have time to work on the different projects. There is free time usually kind of around the meal times. But they will definitely be putting their time management skills to the test to be able to complete everything, and also have a little bit of free time too. But we do have things scheduled in there like movies and some other fun activities that kind of are also can be considered free time.
Yeah, I think that's one of the great things about this class is it's probably different from any other high school class that students have ever taken. And it does put quite a bit of responsibility on students to keep up, with their class responsibilities. But that's a good thing to learn. The students are swimming too, so especially at the time of year that you're teaching, right, Laura?
Yeah, we usually have really nice weather toward the end of the summer, and people are certainly encouraged to get in the water. So some of the activities on the syllabus are, activities that people might consider sort of fun free time activities like going snorkeling or, doing some of those types of activities. So even though the schedule is pretty full, some of those activities are, really fun sort of free time activities too.
Great, thank you.
Okay, we've got a couple more questions. Maybe this is a good lead into the question, what should we bring?
So this is covered in the syllabus and in some of the other materials that are available on the website for Shoals Marine Lab too. In terms of for the class, we do recommend that students bring a laptop. It's just easier for them to be able to complete assignments and things if they have their own laptop. We try to minimize printing and paper use on the island, so I have students submit a lot of their assignments online. So having your own computer is definitely helpful for that, but we do have some computer access, some computers on the island if that's not possible. We also suggest people, bring the basics in terms of sun protection, wind protection for layers in case it's cold or windy or rainy. And then I also recommend if you have your own snorkeling gear and you want to bring that, you're welcome to. Also, if you have binoculars, those are helpful out on the boat for some of the trips that we do. So those are some of the more specialized types of equipment. We do recommend that people bring some kind of notebook for themselves, but they will, when they get to the island to start the class, they will get a sort of lab and field journal book that they'll use for some of the assignments that they're turning in. And for a lot of the notes that they'll be taking. But it is helpful, I think, for students to have their own notebook to keep some of their own notes in addition to that as well.
And we have, as Dr. Laura said, a whole a packing list that's available on the website now, I think, but will certainly be sent to you in a few weeks as you get closer and closer to the class time.
Okay, our next question is from Mike. Is there any required reading or work before arrival on the island?
Generally, no. I would suggest looking through the syllabus to get sort of familiar with what you're going to be doing, but we don't have an official textbook. There certainly are textbooks that you can look at on those subjects that would help give you, maybe a leg up on what you're going to be learning about. And I think we may have a recommended reading on the syllabus. If not, I can add that in there. But in general, you just want to bring your curiosity, be prepared to work hard and to learn a lot, because that's what's going to happen out there.
And arrive rested.
Yeah.
Okay, great. I have one more question here so far. How can a student in high school get credits to their college later down the line once they've enrolled in college?
Oh, I can take that one. This is Robin. At the end of the summer, when you have completed your courses, you'll get a special email from the main Shoals Marine Lab office that will describe to you how to order a transcript from Cornell University. And that's a really easy process. You can either order a transcript at the end of the summer and keep it with your important papers until you actually enroll in college, or you can wait until you're enrolling in college and then call up a transcript from Cornell and bring it with you to college and show that you already have 3 credits of marine environmental science under your belt. Those credits from Cornell are easily transferable to just about any school.
Any other questions from the participants? Okay, here's a question. Is catch and release fishing allowed from the shore during free time?
Robin, I can probably take that one if you want.
Great.
This is Alexa, again, the Shoals alumni. I spent many summers after college working on the island, and we did frequently have students ask this question. So besides the fishing trips that students will go on our research vessels, there is a limited opportunity during your limited free time to fish from the shore. Our main request is that students have to get a recreational fishing license for the state of Maine. Appledore Island is in Maine, so if you're doing it sort of for fun on your own, not part of the class, we want you obviously to follow all of the recreational fishing rules and regulations for the state of Maine. If you're fishing as part of the class on one of our boats or during a field trip, then you're fishing under Shoals Marine Lab's scientific collection permits. So you wouldn't need to worry about your own fishing permit on a field trip. But if you are going to do it on your own free time, then you'd have to contact and figure out how to get a fishing license with the state of Maine.
Thank you.
What great questions. Okay, yeah. Any other questions out there? Here's a question. What is the ratio of counselors to campers? Or I guess I would also add to that question the ratio between faculty to staff and also faculty to students and also on-island staff to students generally?
I can talk about the faculty to students. So for both of these classes, there is one faculty person. So I am the faculty person for my section of the Marine Environmental Science and for the Sharks and Rays class. And then there's another teacher who teaches the other section of the Marine Environmental Science. So we are the faculty people, but then each of us has two TAs, both a male and a female TA, and they serve also as an RA, so they will live in the dorms with the students. And so the three of us, me and the two TAs, are the faculty for the class.
And by RA, you mean, and the TA?
RA, so TA is teaching assistant. They help with all the academic stuff. And then RA is the residential assistant. They're helping with all of the dorm related activities and supervision. And so then the classes max out at 20 students. So it would be 3 to 20 for those classes.
And Alexa, can you also add on a description of some of the other staff and supporting adults that are on Appledore during the summer?
Absolutely. So within the island staff, as Laura mentioned, there are academic faculty and teaching assistants that are one-on-one with the students who are enrolled in a specific course. And then there are also general Shoals Marine Lab island staff members who aren't necessarily paired with a course, but make sure that the island operations go smoothly. So that includes our kitchen staff. We have a head chef and 3 assistant chefs that prepare all of the meals fresh on the island. The food on the island is excellent. It's prepared daily from homemade recipes. Nothing's frozen. It really is some of the best food I've ever had on not only a field station, but college campus in general. Really excellent. The chefs can take care of any dietary restrictions or food allergies. So if someone's vegetarian, vegan, gluten-free, nut allergy, they can prepare meals to meet any student's needs. So that's the kitchen staff. Is really 4 core chefs. We also have island engineers that make sure that all of our solar panels and the wind turbine are running well. The island is really proud of its sustainability initiatives, and if you come out to the island for a course, you'll definitely get up close and personal with the solar panels and the different energy and conservation measures on the island. We, besides the chefs and the engineers, have research vessel captains. Usually 3 captains who operate our different boats are very knowledgeable about the boats and the waters around the Isles of Shoals. They know all the best fishing spots. They know how to navigate the waters of the Gulf of Maine and teach students along the way a little bit about navigation, boat safety. So there will always be licensed boat captains on our vessels. Besides those 3 departments, there's also what we call a programs department, which includes our lab coordinator and an island coordinator and assistant island coordinator. And they really make sure that all the programs run smoothly, that the teaching staff, faculty, and teaching assistants have all the materials for different experiments, everything's ordered, all the boats run on time, everyone knows where their rooms are in the dorms. So really that's a core group of 10 to 15 extra people on the island making sure it runs smoothly. And also our director of operations, Mike Rosen, is a licensed EMT and a dive master. So he makes sure that everything that we do on the island is safe. And if a student needs any sort of medical attention, he's our first responder. There's also a doctor. We're panning around to Star Island, which is the island you'll see with all the big white buildings on it. Yeah, right there. There's a doctor or a nurse on Star Island at all times. So if a student needs to go see someone for medical attention, we have an EMT on the island. We can bring you to Star Island. And there's also a hospital in Portsmouth should something get more serious. So usually students feel extremely safe and parents feel extremely comfortable with the support staff on the island. besides the academic staff.
Hey, thank you, Alexa.
Any other questions?
Can I also mention, because they're seeing lots of equipment on the top of this tower, the island has really fast, excellent Wi-Fi and a pretty solid cell phone signal for all of the carriers. So even though we encourage students to try and, step away from some of their electronics and really get into the field, you will have the ability to text and call home, get email, and search for things online in all of the buildings on the island. The further out into the field you get, if you're on the rocks or on a boat, obviously the signal gets a little bit weaker. But from the classrooms and the dorms, you'll have full access to Wi-Fi and cell phone service. So that's not a concern for studying or communicating, whatever you need to do while you're on the island.
Thanks, Alexa. Any final questions before we wrap up? Okay, Robin, it looks like we've answered all the questions.
Great. Well, you know where to find us if you have additional questions. I'll give you my email address now. You can always shunt questions over to me. My email is R as in Robin, H as in Hadlock, S as in Sam, the number 4 at cornell.edu. That's on our staff page. And also you can always send questions to the general Shoals email address, which is, if I'm not mistaken, shoals.lab@unh.edu.
Alexa has included those email addresses in the chat box if anybody wants to cut and paste.
Great. So thanks, everybody. Thanks, and see you on the island. I can't wait for summer to start. Thanks so much for coming to the webinar.